And away we go. 4-0 takes on 2-2. The Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle won the toss. They defer. Something's got to give here, right? The Bengals offense, number 2 in the NFL. The Seahawks defense, number 2 in the NFL.
That's Chuck Woolery right there, Joe. 2-2, baby.
It's the old Chuck Woolery here before the kickoff.
Should be good.
Auschka will kick it away with Brandon Tate waiting for it. It's week 5 in the NFL, and with Cincinnati on top in the North, already enjoying a 2-game lead over the Steelers, who are 2-2, and they're at San Diego on Monday night. Glad you're with us. And away we go. Bringing it out is Tate. Not a good decision. Well covered downfield. It's McCray on the tackle for Seattle. And here comes Andy Dalton. Can't get off to a better start. Well, I guess you can if your name's Aaron Rodgers, because Andy Dalton's quarterback rating is number 2 in the NFL to Aaron, and he's just never played better in this league.
He's playing terrific. He's getting the ball down the field. He's been very accurate with his throws, especially the balls down the field when he's had his opportunities. Big game last week against Kansas City. Biggest thing he's done, Joe, is he's not forced throws. You know, something that was to his detriment in previous years.
Start with a throw, and open for the catch is A.J. Green. Working on Kerry Williams. We'll look at some of the offensive players. Maybe on the far right, Andrew Whitworth. Good offensive line here in Cincinnati. And that big weapon of A.J. Green on the outside. 2 good backs, Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. 2nd and 2. Here's Dalton carrying it for the first down. And on that play, it was Andre Smith, the right tackle, who was spread out to the right in a wide receiver spot.
Yeah, they split out both tackles. They split out Andre Smith to the right. They go Andrew Whitworth to the left. They keep the ball with Andy Dalton. An excellent job by their right guard, Kevin Zeitler, making a key block. And Seattle didn't know what to think of that.
Out of the mind of Hugh Jackson, the offensive coordinator for Cincinnati. Handoff is to Hill. And the young big back, 6'1", 235, who had over 1,100 rushing yards and finished the season last year red hot. No gain. Rubin on that stop. He's not listed here, but you look at the group, and obviously the attention always goes to the secondary. Sherman made his first start in the NFL against the Cincinnati Bengals and did a good job against A.J. Green back in 2011. Dalton out to his right. That's Green, and he was working on Sherman. Drove him deep, came back for a 14-yard completion.
Well, how do you combat that pressure that Seattle's able to put on quarterbacks? And you move the pocket. This is an excellent job off of play action. They get Andy Dalton out on the edge. He had 2 chances right there. He has A.J. Green, his big play wide receiver, along the boundary, which he takes. He also had Ryan Hewitt work in the middle of the field and was open himself. We're going to that same look again here, Joe, with Andrew Whitworth split out wide as a wide receiver.
And they hand it off. Hill. Seattle defense not fooled. Bobby Wagner on the tackle, no gain.
Seattle's pretty good usually at picking things up once they see it, and they obviously made some adjustments as to what was happening. Cincinnati had success the first time they went with it, thought they'd come back and see if they could get another positive gain, but Seattle plays it perfectly. That might be the last time we see Whitworth lined up in wideout.
That's Bernard in motion. Dalton steps into it, has a man wide open. Pass caught by Jones. And Marvin Jones still working down inside the 15. What a start for Cincinnati. That one good for 44.
Well, this is where they've been really good. Cincinnati is getting the ball up the seam. Marvin Jones, 82, inside the numbers, a perfect throw. They get Giovanni Bernard split out. They switch release it to that side. I think it created some confusion with this Seattle defense, but it certainly opens up a lane there for Marvin Jones, and another big play and big throw by Andy Dalton.
And that's really defined their season so far. Has 15 completions of 25 or more yards, number 1 in the NFL, add another. That one 44. And now timeout taken by Cincinnati. Fast start for Andy Dalton and the Bengals, 4-0 and looking good so far.
Game is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide, only with Southwest.
Second longest tenured head coach in the NFL, Marvin Lewis, in his 13th season here in Cincinnati. They've had regular season success. Still waiting for something magical in January. First down. Dalton, wide open, touchdown Eifert. Dalton has started 4 for 4, and he's had wide receivers wide open.
We're going to see that he comes off the ball, and there's just no linebacker that picks him up, so he's able to go right down the field. Just a blown coverage by Seattle, and we saw the big play to Marvin Jones that got him down here in this position. That's the one thing that this Seattle defense has had some issues with here in the first part of this season, is giving up big pass plays, 2 big breakdowns that lead to the touchdown.
Wide receivers get him down there. The tight end, Eifert, has his 4th touchdown of the season. It's 7-0 Cincinnati. The Bengals, an NFL best, 28 opening drive points, and they have started fast here against Seattle.
This game is sponsored by Bud Light. Make the right call. Drink responsibly.
Little 14-yarder to Tyler Eifert. And it's 7-0 Bengals. Some breakdowns in the secondary for Seattle. Not used to seeing that. 7-play drive, just under 4 minutes, and Nugent kicks it to Lockett at the back of the end zone. Let's go back to the touchdown.
Yeah, ISO Cam Chancellor, he's right here. And it looks to me like he should have been the one who carries Tyler Eifert up the seam. Instead, Marvin Jones is running a pivot route there from the slot position, and 2 guys covering him. Certainly Earl Thomas not able to get over the top and try to make a play. You see Cam Chancellor going over it there on the sideline, seeing exactly why there was a miscommunication on the play. But 2 easy pass plays for Andy Dalton.
Well, will there be any easy ones for Russell Wilson, who has been under pressure all year?
Man it. Here we go. Blue lady.
Hand off to Rawls. Bounces it outside. Good start for Rawls. Last week against Detroit, 17 carries, 48 yards, and again, he's the feature back. Playing instead of the injured Marshawn Lynch, out for the 2nd straight game with a bad hamstring. Sacked 18 times, tied for the most in the NFL is Russell Wilson, and that's for a guy who can escape some pressure. So that offensive line has really struggled.
He sacked 6 times on Monday night. That number could have been 12 if he wasn't as mobile as he is.
Now to the right side, Rawls fights to the 29, 3rd down and 1 coming up. If we look at some of the faces, we'll highlight the guy on the right, and that's Nowak, who was the first-year starting center, former defensive lineman in college, practice squatter last year, and he's had his hands full.
Yeah, he had a rough night on Monday night with some of the errant snaps. It certainly allowed Detroit to get back into the ball game. He's got his hands full here today. That entire offensive line does. And that Cincinnati defensively, well, that defensive front, they have been outstanding through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Handoff for the first down to Rawls. So 3 straight handoffs as the Seahawks try to establish that ground game here early.
Yeah, I think if you look at Cincinnati defensively and the things that they've been able to do, overall the numbers look pretty good. Their run defense, but when you dig in a little bit deeper, San Diego, they were able to run the ball pretty effectively. The Chiefs ran the ball pretty well against them too. So even though Seattle has had some of their issues, along that offensive line. They're going to try to stick to that running game and do so without Marshawn Lynch.
First throw, Wilson has a man, and that name out on the edge is Jimmy Graham. A gain of 4, and let's go to Mike Hill with a game break.
All right, guys, Packers and the Rams, and how good is Aaron Rodgers? Well, you know how good he is. He's the MVP. Finds Ty Montgomery, just weapons after weapons for that Green Bay offense. 31-yard score, second of the season, 7-0 Packers. Joe, Troy, back to you.
Keep an eye on that young man from Stanford. Ty Montgomery could develop into yet another weapon for Aaron Rodgers, 2nd and 6. Handoff is to Rawls, and he breaks free for a first down. Still going. What a good run for the rookie out of Central Michigan. A college free agent picks up 23.
Well, some of the things that this offensive line has struggled with is some of the combination blocking. You're going to see the left guard, number 68, Justin Britt, who does a good job helping with his center, Nowak, and then he moves up to the next level, and it creates some running lane then for Rawls, and that's a nice job of running the football.
Season long for Thomas. 23-yard carry. Wilson steps through it. And now will carry it inside the 35, and he will hop out of bounds inside the 34. Forced out by A.J. Hawk, and the Seahawks answering what was an impressive opening drive by Cincinnati.
Yeah, good coverage down the field, and Russell Wilson able to keep the ball, and he's been, you know, such a big part of what they've been able to do running the football. He always is, but you take his rushing numbers out of this offense, and they're not running the ball very well. They're in the bottom third of the league.
Rod Smith now in at tailback, just activated off the practice squad. And he'll take it here. He's got a first down. He's a big-bodied kid, 6'3", 226. Played at Ohio State. The Seahawks put Harold Simon on IR to open up a roster spot for Rod Smith. And he picks up a first down on his first carry in the NFL.
And he stays in the game. So, as you said, a guy who was on the practice squad getting some action, and they're trusting him here early in this ball game.
Easy. That's just 51. Just 51. Got it. Good.
Blitz coming. Wilson protected. Wide open for the touchdown is Kearse. And what an answer from Seattle. And that offensive line, the embattled offensive line, did a terrific job on this first possession.
Russell Wilson comes up. You heard him. He changes the call, and we saw blown coverage by Seattle defensively. This time the same thing happens to Cincinnati. Jermaine Kearse, he's just running a corner route. Nobody carries him up the field. They come off at a miscommunication now for both teams that have led to touchdowns.
30-yarder to Kearse. That's his first touchdown catch of the season. Hauschka will try and tie it. Which he does. Still over 6:30 left in the opening quarter. Good start for Russell Wilson. Jermaine Kearse says it's about time. 7-7 in Cincy.
This game is sponsored by Chevrolet. Use hashtag iDrive4 and we'll contribute $5 to fight breast cancer. By Pizza Hut. Bring home the flavor with a twisted crust pizza. And by State Farm. It pays to double check. Talk to your agent today.
They have some trophies in the case at Moeller High School. In Cincinnati, some famous alumni include Barry Larkin and Ken Griffey Jr. What a good answer from Seattle, and it was the ground game that set up the touchdown pass. 46 rushing yards on the drive, and then the 30-yarder to Jermaine Kearse. 7-7 game, and you would imagine Pete Carroll Tom Cable are happy with the way the offensive line for Seattle has started this game.
Yeah, that was a big drive to answer the score by Cincinnati, an offense that had not scored an offensive touchdown this season. To be able to put something together and answer was big.
Bringing it out again is Tate, and again can't get to the 20, barely made the 10. And the Seahawks are covering these kicks awfully well. Again, McCray. 7-7, Cincinnati with the football. Well, for the Seahawks defense, first touchdown they have allowed in their last 23 opponent possessions. That was against the dynamic combination of the Bears and the Lions. Now they're taking on one of the best offenses in the NFL. 7-7 game as the Seahawks answered. Drive starts at the 11. Hill on a bit of a delay. Penalty flag flies. This is a crew that calls a lot of holding penalties.
Ruben, there's a penalty flag on the field.
We have one here.
Holding. Offense. Number 81. Half the distance to the goal. Replay. First down.
It's the first penalty flag thrown all game. John Perry, his crew averages calling over 20 fouls a game. And this group has called 25 offensive holding calls, which is by far the most this season. And it was against Tyler Croft.
I think that all the people at home are saying that. You could probably say that about a lot of these officiating crews. Really remarkable how high the penalty count has been this season.
Record-setting pace.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
First and 15.
18. Hands up.
Floating one to the sideline. What a throw and catch. A.J. Green on Kerry Williams, and Andy Dalton couldn't have handed it to him any better than this.
No, this is what you call walking it to a man. I mean, he's going up the field. It's a perfect release by A.J. Green. He gives his quarterback room to put the football along the boundary, cut the split to begin the play. But Kerry Williams, he's going to get opportunities. They're not going to challenge Richard Sherman. You're going to throw in his direction, but you pick out the guy that you feel like you can go after the most, and that's going to be Kerry Williams for much of this season.
Down the sideline, Green hit in stride. Stays upright. What a move. That's a touchdown, but a flag is down. And this may be coming back. It is another hold.
Holding. Offense. Number 77. 10-yard penalty. Replay. First down.
They get Whitworth on the hold to bring it all back. What a terrific throw yet again from Dalton, but here's a hold on Whitworth.
Well, let's take a look at it and see. He's got his left arm out around him. Once you get your arms extended like that, the officials are gonna get that call right there. And what a perfect throw by Andy Dalton. He lays that one beautifully up the sideline, all for naught. But right now, I think Seattle's got to take a look at this. If they're going to come up with Kerry Williams, they will mix it up. They'll come up and press. Sometimes they'll play soft. But if you're going to match Kerry Williams man-to-man in a press technique against A.J. Green, you're going to see a lot more of this. We've seen it on the last two plays.
72-yard touchdown called back because of that holding call on Whitworth. First and 20 now. Handoff, right side, Jeremy Hill. Pretty well played up front. Richard Sherman coming up to make the stop, a gain of 5.
It's just remarkable, the accuracy that Andy Dalton has shown this year on the deep ball. I mean, he's come in, and they do get the ball more vertical, and you touched on it when we came into this game, Joe, more than most teams. Today you're seeing a lot of horizontal passing. I think Hugh Jackson has taken advantage of the weapons that he has, getting the ball vertical, and when you're playing against a defense that likes to play aggressive press coverage like Seattle does, you're going to get some shots. But Andy Dalton has been on the money here in this first quarter.
Now over the middle, pass broken up. Intended target was Tyler Eifert. Bobby Wagner best middle linebackers in the NFL is there defending. Ooh. May have gotten there a little early, but no call.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner is terrific. You hear the crowd react to it. They saw it just now for the first time in stadium, and it was close. But Bobby Wagner, who missed some games last year, noticeable in the games that he was not playing, especially in run defense, much like the difference we've seen the last 2 weeks with Cam Chancellor back.
Kevin Zeitler now comes off the starting right guard. Eric Winston will take over. There's Hugh Jackson. He is one of the more creative offensive coordinators around the NFL. We've seen some of that creativity already, and now what will he dial up on 3rd and 15? With a new right guard. Bernard will carry it. 4th down. First guy there, Bruce Irvin, and a rather uninspiring call on 3rd down and 15.
Well, I like the call, though, by Hugh Jackson. You're backed up. You've got long 3rd down situation. Not a good position to be in against any defense, especially one like Seattle. You know, take your medicine. We had the holding penalty that hurt the ability to get the touchdown there. Play field position.
Huber hits it. Lockett will stay away for a moment on a hop. He gets it and takes off. Dragged down across the 35. They'll mark him at the 37. P.J. Dawson on the tackle. This hold by Whitworth erased a 72-yard strike from Dalton. So we're still tied in Cincinnati at 7. Seattle in this tie game, they take over at their own 37. Blitz off the edge. Seattle runs away from it. And a nice gain on 1st down by Thomas Rawls. And so far, the holes have been there for the rookie free agent. That one good for 12.
You're going to see right here, they're worried about the boot by Russell Wilson that we saw that they like to do. And so it opens up a running lane. And right now, I think Russell Wilson's doing a good job of communicating on the line of scrimmage. He did on the previous possession when they got the touchdown to Jermaine Kearse. You hear him up there telling the line to easy. He's just trying to settle him in and make some changes.
Sliding down behind the line of scrimmage is Thomas Rawls. A loss of 1.
Let's go.
Let's go back to the touchdown. Here's Wilson at the line.
Hey, easy. Hey, touch 51. Touch 51.
There's a touchdown throw that he gets off of it. So when he's saying easy, he's going to change protection at the line of scrimmage or the play. That time protection, they work to the linebacker. They pick up a blitz off the edge, and they got the touchdown.
Wilson able to just get outside the pocket and throw it away. Graham the closest one to it, and it was Dunlap who showed his speed as he chased down Russell Wilson, who kept it on that little rollout. Dunlap is a good one. Had 8 sacks last year for a defense that had 20 for the season.
Yeah, he had a good year last year, off to another great start this year, leading the team in sacks, and it's going to be his job to try to keep Russell Wilson in the pocket like he was able to on that last play.
3rd and 11. Wilson comes underneath. He's got the tight end Luke Wilson, but he's brought down short of a 1st down, a gain of 8. Denard on the stop, 2nd-year player out of Michigan State. And Darquez with a good tackle to hold Luke Wilson short of the line to gain. And now Brandon Tate will wait for the punt from John Ryan.
Yeah, Brandon Tate going to see if maybe he can get the ball to this offense with a little better field position than they've had the first 2 possessions.
End over end punt. Tate leaves it alone, and it will hop into the end zone. Drive will start at the 20, tie game here. Let's go to Kurt with a game break.
All right, the Eagles' Sam Bradford threw an interception in the end zone on Philadelphia's first drive. The Saints take it all the way down the field and cap it off with a Drew Brees to Benjamin Watson score, 7-0 in the first. Joe Troy and Aaron.
Kurt, thanks. Well, the ALDS returns to FS1 tonight, Game 3 between Toronto and Texas. There's the pitching matchup. Don't miss the action. Only on FS1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
Well, if that game's anything like Game 2, wow. It's going to be great for the viewing audience on Fox Sports 1. Pretty good stuff.
14-inning affair. 2 games to nothing are the Texas Rangers. Here's a quick throw and a completion. That's Jones. Dragged down after a gain of 6. Meanwhile, speaking of interceptions, Aaron Rodgers has thrown a pick at Lambeau Field.
No way.
Like stop the presses. His first one since December 2nd of 2012. 587 attempps, and he threw one to the Rams.
And what did I see, like 50 touchdowns since that time or something?
And no interceptions. He has one today. 2nd and 4. Eifert not on the same page with Dalton. 3rd and 4.
We saw Marvin Jones on that previous play with the reception, and certainly a lot of people talking about the play of Andy Dalton and how much better it's been this year. I liked him when he was coming out of college. That was a great 2nd-round pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, but as we talked about on Friday, it comes down really to this team, and Andy Dalton's going to be judged on what happens in January, where he is still looking for his first playoff victory, but you still got to get to January, and it's been a great start, but one of the reasons why is because of a guy like Marvin Jones, who missed all of last year.
Pass is caught for the first down, Sanu. And not only has Dalton started 4-0, but he has the best quarterback rating in the NFL on 3rd down. This one good for 21.
Well, I really like the route, Mohamed Sanu, and they bring in Kerry Williams into the slot. Just an excellent job of running across the field, man-to-man coverage, and another perfect throw by Dalton.
Pass caught, Bernard. Got around the tackle of Chancellor, brought down by Wagner, but a gain of 8. Dalton has 3 pass completions of 20 or more yards already in this half, in this quarter, as we're under 30 seconds to go.
Richard Sherman, who typically stays to the opposite side of the field, they've got him moving, and you just don't see that much from him. So Pete Carroll and that defensive staff said we got to adjust some things, and now they've got Richard Sherman moving and playing both sides of the ball.
Just before the end of the quarter, a false start.
False start. Offense number 65. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down. Next to game clock, please. 1 second remaining.
So they're going to put quarter. 1 second back on the game clock. Meanwhile, when Richard Sherman matched up against the Bengals, he did not go with A.J. Green back in 2011 in that first start in the terrific young career of Richard Sherman. But after the way the first quarter unfolded, Sherman has switched sides, and he's looking for number 18. 7-7 game, fast start here in Cincinnati. Back after this from your local Fox station. It's a sold-out crowd here at Paul Brown Stadium, 65,000 plus. They saw their Bengals go down the field, score a touchdown on their first possession. Seattle answered, and now a 2nd down and 7 as we start quarter number 2. With the ball at the Cincinnati 49.
Well, they're definitely matching up Richard Sherman with A.J. Green, and so as I said, not something that they do much of. They like to keep their corners playing their side of the field, but Pete Carroll recognizing the damage he's given them.
Trying to set up a screen back to the left after rolling out to the right for Eifert. And there was just nothing there. 3rd down and 7.
I think that's what makes Cincinnati really so dangerous. Yes, A.J. Green is a big-time receiver, and you've got to be able to answer for him. But I've said it many times. You've heard me, Joe. I think the 3rd guy in your lineup really determines whether you're going to be an explosive offensive aerial attack. And Cincinnati has that. They've got 3 really excellent wide receivers, but then they also have Giovanni Bernard out of the backfield, Tyler Eifert to tight end. They got ways to beat you.
Here's a completion on 3rd down again. This time it's A.J. Green. Another 1st down for Cincinnati. This one good for 9.
Richard Sherman's on him, and this is going to be a heck of a battle to watch. And this time A.J. Green, he wins that battle. He's inside on the slot, a good thrown ball. As a receiver, you want that stuck on you in tight coverage and away, and he's able to do that and keep it low and protect himself. But an excellent release and a nice completion.
Quick throw, dangerous throw, and Jones is wrapped up immediately by Deshaun Shedd. What a good play by number 35, who is filling in at that slot, that nickel position with the depth because of injuries really tested here for Seattle.
Yeah, he's done a nice job, and he did an excellent job on that play. We see it so many times. These offenses coming out and throwing that quick pass out to the wide receiver. He read it beautifully, and he got there before the blockers could get a hand on it.
Dalton is sacked. Back on the Bengals side of midfield, and it's Cliff Averill. And a loss of 7.
Well, they wanted to take another shot up the field, but excellent coverage on the outside. A.J. Green, he was going to test Richard Sherman one more time, but he just couldn't hold the ball long enough to give him a shot, and Cliff Averill keeps playing off that edge and is able to get to Dalton.
2nd sack of the year for Averill, now 3rd and 19.
Now, a lot of attention paid to the sacks or lack thereof by Seattle. Don't let that fool you. This is still a defensive front that knows how to harass a quarterback. Just ask Matthew Stafford.
Here's Bernard, who was left alone. Not likely to have picked up the 1st down. He had a long way to go. But Dalton with an incompletion to a wide open back out of the backfield. Meanwhile, that was the 1st sack that Andy Dalton has suffered here at home in the early part of the season, and just the 3rd sack allowed by this offensive line of the Bengals.
Yeah, and those things go hand in hand. Excellent offensive line, but Andy Dalton very good at getting the ball out of his hands.
Good punt by Huber. And well covered downfield and tapped down at the 1 by Denard. Darquez Denard able to corral it before it ended in the end zone. The drive will start for Seattle at the 1.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by DraftKings. Free 1-week fantasy football at DraftKings.com. By McDonald's, now serving all-day breakfast. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
High school football, serious business over on the west side of Cincinnati. Showed you views from the pit, the 10,000-seat stadium for the Elder Panthers. Voted one of the 10 best places to watch a high school game by USA Today. And they are loud here at Paul Brown Stadium as the drive starts. They marked it down at the 2. Now it's at the 1 as Justin Britt left too early.
Ball start. Offense number 68. Half the distance to the goal, 1st down.
Well, the good news about that is you don't get hurt much. Half the distance to the goal, they're pretty much on the goal line already. Good time right here to use hard count for Russell Wilson. You're not going to lose much as an offense. Get a chance to pick up 5 easy yards. This calls into question really what Darrell Bevell, the offensive coordinator, is going to call. A lot can happen down here with a leaky offensive line.
Slow start to the play. And able to plow ahead for 2.5 is Thomas Rawls.
Yeah, you get down here and you're backed up, and you're just all you're focused on is getting a first down. There's a good look at Darrell Bevel, the offensive coordinator. He's had his work cut out for him. I mean, he's been here in Seattle for a few years now, and when you're used to running the football the way that they've been able to do so, and now without Marshawn Lynch and all the changes that have been well documented, it is hard to call plays as a coordinator.
Second and 9, Rawls again. Out across the 5. Atkins on the tackle, a gain of 3, a little breathing room for Seattle, and a 3rd and 6 coming up.
Yeah, a little breathing room, because you're not leaving your punter much room if you don't get it going off of that line, and a lot of bad things can happen. Now, we're going to see whether or not Seattle is going to be willing to try to get the ball down the field and pick up a first down, or if they're just going to be content running the football and seeing if they can pick it up that way. Maybe they move Russell Wilson out of the pocket.
Fred Jackson checks into the backfield. 3rd down and 6. Pass is caught for a first down. That's Kearse, who's got a touchdown, a 30-yarder. He's tied the game at 7. This one good for 8, and that's a big first down for Seattle.
Well, this is an excellent job by Kearse. That's not an easy catch for him to make. You'd like to have that throw right on your body, knowing that you're between 2 defenders, but he goes up, snatches it out of the air, and just an excellent job in order to pick up the first down.
One of many free agents, undrafted players on the outside for the Seahawks. Here's Rawls. A.J. Hawk on the stop, the longtime Packer. Carry good for 3 yards. Here are the men on the outside for Seattle. And there's only one real draft pick, and that's the rookie Tyler Lockett. But Baldwin, Lockett, that's Ricardo, Matthews, and Kearse, all undrafted.
A lot of undrafted guys. They've signed surprise free agents. You know, they went out, they got Percy Harvin, they got Sidney Rice. Those things didn't work out for them, but they've had a hard time developing a top-notch wide receiver.
Wilson keeps it, doing all he can. Still looking to get rid of it. He's going to hop out of bounds. Forced out by Jones, a loss of 1. Pressure by Michael Johnson, who is back in Cincinnati after a year in Tampa Bay.
That's a lot of running around for not much to show for it. We talked about the night that he had on Monday night. Made a lot of plays and was able to avoid a lot of sacks there against Detroit, which certainly helped this team. But then you've got to take some of the bad that comes along with it. 2 costly fumbles, one of them being on the snap, but you got to be careful.
That goes down as a sack. 3rd down and 8. Play clock at 0.
Play game. Offense, 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
I can assure you that that last play going down as a sack does not make that offensive line nor their offensive line coach, Tom Cable, very happy. Knowing that as a quarterback you can get rid of the football, and that'll be a sack. No one will remember it. There's Tom Cable there. And talk about a guy who's had his work cut out for him. I mean, the things that Seattle has done and who he's had to try to develop that offensive line really speaks to how much he's respected and thought of within that organization.
3rd down and 13. They run it with Fred Jackson. 4th down. Somehow Jackson able to bounce back from a high ankle sprain. And here he is playing a week later. He gets 5. But with the defensive stop, it's 4th down, and the Bengals will get it back.
Yeah, Fred Jackson, he's pretty incredible. To come back from that high ankle sprain. He had some nice runs last Monday night. We didn't expect to see him here today, but he's getting a little bit of action. I like the call by Bevel, much like we saw Hugh Jackson call on the other end for the Bengals. 3rd and long, especially on the road. Take your medicine and go play defense.
Ryan looking for a good one, and he found it. He drives Tate back inside the 25. Well played downfield. And wrestled out of bounds, out across the 30 by Ricardo Lockett. is Tate after a 64-yard punt. Get me more on Andy Dalton, says the television audience. His career timeline: born in Katy, Texas in 1987. Was the Rose Bowl offensive MVP for TCU in 2011, then drafted in the second round. He's lost the wild card game every season. This is his best start, 4-0. First time the Bengals have started outside their own 20. And they complete to A.J. Green. Even with Richard Sherman on his typical left side, this one good for a 12-yard completion.
Well, it's pretty obvious that, you know, they like A.J. Green, because even though he's up against their best corner, they say, hey, Richard Sherman, he's going to win some of these battles, but my guy's going to win some too. And I've been in that situation. I had Michael Irvin going up against Deion Sanders, arguably the best corner in all of football. You still got to throw it to your guy. Andy Dalton is, and A.J. Green's winning on the routes.
Hand off to Bernard. Well played.
I'll go back to Andy Dalton. I talked about it a little bit earlier. I was certainly very familiar with his career in college, playing there in Fort Worth at Texas Christian University. I liked him coming out. I thought it was a nice pick here by Cincinnati in the second round. But I'm even a bigger fan after his recommendation last night for our restaurant meal. We went to Soto in downtown Cincinnati. How good was that?
Well, first of all, we paid, so there's no payola involved in that. You're looking for free appetizers. 2nd and 11. It's good, though. Dalton flushed out and brought down from behind by Bruce Irvin. And there was a right arm around the neck of Andy Dalton on the tackle. That was vicious from the backside. No sack, a run of 2 yards.
Gio Bernard, he does an excellent job of coming over and making a play. And you see the hit then on Andy Dalton. Wow, headgear comes off and everything else. And it's physical. And Andy certainly knows what he's up against with this pass rush, and that the ball's got to get out.
On 3rd down, penalty flag is thrown. Marvin Jones, the intended target, down the sideline, but this is a hold against Seattle. It'll be a 1st down.
Prior to the pass, holding, defense number 31, 5-yard penalty, automatic, 1st down.
Well, they match Cam Chancellor right over Tyler Eifert. He's going to do a little stutter move and then try to get up in the seam, and Chancellor, recognizing that he's beat, he overplayed it. They get him on the hold.
This Seattle team was heavily penalized last year. They led the NFL with 130. They've been good in that category so far this year, but that's a 1st down by penalty on Cam Chancellor. Hand off to Hill. Hill hit by Chancellor, picks up 5.
You know, Jeremy Hill last year had a nice rookie season, over 1,100 yards rushing, and a lot of those yards, in talking with Marvin Lewis, were with a fullback lead blocking for him. And some of the struggles that he's had earlier this season were when he was asked to run the football from a 1-back set. Right now you see Ryan Hewitt at the fullback position, and that's where he's most comfortable running the ball.
Doesn't work this time as Mebane comes through to make a play. And it'll be 3rd down. Good play as Jeremy Hill is dragged down for a loss of 3.
It's an excellent job by Brandon Mebane, who missed quite a few games to end the season last year. He's a physical guy in the middle with great quickness, and was probably having his best year at the time of his injury, and he's certainly has helped this defense this season.
He missed last week against Detroit with a groin strain, but he's back. Good play. 3rd and 8. Bennett came across.
Neutral zone infraction, defense, number 72, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Well, penalties are nothing new for Michael Bennett. He led the team in penalties last year. He leads the team in penalties again this year, and he's a great player inside, and just trying to get a jump on the ball, and Andy Dalton doing a nice job with the cadence.
Brings up 3rd down and 2. can go a long way with a quarterback who's #1 in the league in quarterback rating on 3rd down, and that's what Andy Dalton is.
We got Kerry Williams on down here at the bottom.
He's on A.J. Green, looking left, and now pulling it down. Back over the middle, 1st down, Bernard. On a 3rd down completion from Dalton, good for 10, working on Kerry Williams. He made the tackle.
This is a great example of why Andy Dalton has been so good this year. First on the outside, he doesn't go to A.J. Green, but he gets pressure just as he's about to let it go, but he knows exactly where Bernard is going to be and gets it to him. It's just an excellent job on his part of knowing where his check down is.
Under 4 to go, 1st half. Here's Hill. Wrestled down at the line of scrimmage by K.J. Wright. K.J. Wright, the player who committed the illegal bat in the end zone last week, so he's heard enough about rules in the NFL for a week. 2nd and 10.
Yeah, now they're talking about, around the league anyway, of reviewing everything, which is kind of what I said to begin with when they talked about instant replay. If they can't review all the plays all the time, then kind of what's the point when you know what should have been called and they can't change the call. But it was a nice win then for Seattle.
Handoff to Bernard. Good play by Earl Thomas. And Thomas saved a 1st down and maybe more as Thomas closed on that fast.
Well, Hewitt at fullback, he does an excellent job lead blocking for Bernard. A nice lane in the middle. Just really good execution right now by this offense.
Here's Dalton, going to try and plow ahead for the 1st down on 3rd down. Or are they going to spot him? Looks like with enough. That's a 1st down as Dalton kept it and picked it up after the 9-yard carry by Bernard. Cincinnati 2 timeouts as we approach the 2-minute warning. And they're going to let it go to the 2-minute warning. You have anything you'd ever wanted to say to the United States of America, Troy? You have 12 seconds.
No, I'm going to defer to you. Go ahead.
Okay. It's a 7-7 game. 2 minutes left. Interconference battle, Seahawks and Bengals. Fun one here in Cincinnati. Back after this. Get apps, videos, and more at itunes.com/NFL. How about more on number 31, Cam Chancellor? And some of the headlines. Michael Robinson saying that he is willing to sit out the entire season. Marshawn Lynch wearing Cam's jersey at practice. Chancellor with that game-saving play for the Seahawks. According to that headline, completes his redemption story. What a play it was, knocking the ball out of the arms of Calvin Johnson. Less than a yard from the plane of the goal line. Here's one through the hands of Jeremy Hill. Aaron?
Just to add on Cam Chancellor missing all of camp and then the 2 days, Pete Carroll telling us this week he didn't miss a beat with his offseason conditioning. He came in impeccable shape, looked great. They wanted to give him a breather in that first game back, but he didn't need it at all. I asked Russell Wilson yesterday, isn't that just annoying that someone misses all of camp? He said, no, thank God he did. It helps us out.
Seattle 2-0 with him. 0-2 without him. The numbers against this defense are night and day with number 31 in there. 2nd and 10. Bad snap. Somehow Dalton gets it. Completes it to Bernard, but a good play by Cam Chancellor. He closes in a hurry. He hits like a truck and a gain of 1.
Yeah, Cam Chancellor's hard to be the Legion of Boom when you're without your boom, and he's made a real difference for this defense. And how Andy Dalton is able to make a play on this one, he's fortunate that it just didn't get away from him. But Cam Chancellor, when you talk to the coaches and more importantly when you talk to the players, he unquestionably is the leader of this group. So they were excited to have him back, and it's rare when someone steps in missing that much time and being in game shape, ready to play, but he was. Speaks to how he conditioned himself while he wasn't there.
3rd down and 10. Pass is picked off in the end zone. Earl Thomas. penalty flag after the interception. Thomas gets a block. Still up on his feet, and he takes it down just outside the 30. Tackled by A.J. Green. A.J. Green was the intended target, and Andy Dalton throws an interception in the end zone.
After the interception, personal foul, defense number 72. They'll retain the ball after a 15-yard penalty. 1st and 10.
Well, they don't come any easier for that for Earl Thomas. He was in a great position right from the time the ball was delivered.
Penalty against Bennett, but the Seahawks have it in a tie game.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by FanDuel, the leader in one-week fantasy football.
Well, the interception comes for this Seattle defense. It's the first one that they've had this season. I know that's hard to believe. Here in week 5, you're used to Seattle racking up picks, but the penalty against Bennett is huge. Instead of having it just outside the 30 of Cincinnati, the ball's back inside the Seattle 20. 51 yards of field position lost because of the penalty. Here's one flipped to Fred Jackson out of the right hand of Russell Wilson, and Jackson is out across the 25, a gain of 8. 3 timeouts left. 2nd and 2. Wilson throws, pass caught, Baldwin out of bounds. 28 seconds left. Back to the interception.
Yeah, he had a chance at Gio Bernard in the flat, and then he's got A.J. Green. But the guy you got to keep an eye on then is Earl Thomas at the safety position. So he decides to pass up Gio Bernard and get one into the end zone, but he loses sight of Earl Thomas, and he can make up a lot of ground, but he was cheated way over to that side. No chance of completing that pass for Dalton.
Pass caught, Baldwin, and he hangs on after the hit. And a big hit put on by Iloka. And a timeout taken by Seattle. They'll have a first down after the 13-yarder. With the ball up near midfield. Back after this. Well, there's Pete Carroll. Some decisions to be made here. The field goal from this spot would be a 68-yarder. Hauschka's career long is 58. What's coming up at halftime, Kurt?
Coming up on the Visa halftime, Aaron Rodgers and the high-powered pack host the Rams. Joe Flacco uses his legs against the Browns, and Jameis Winston takes on the Jags in a Florida feud. Those highlights and much more coming up at the half.
All right, Kurt, here in Cincinnati, the ball is right at midfield. 21 seconds left. And Seattle needs more yardage to have a realistic shot at a field goal attempt. Stephen Hauschka, one of the best in the game now. He's 3 for 3 from 50 or more yards. His career long, as I said, 58. And right now they need 10 yards from this spot to get into a position for that. So we'll see what Seattle features on first down with 2 timeouts left. All of this coming after Andy Dalton's 2nd interception of the season, and his first here at home in the end zone, picked off by Earl Thomas.
We saw Jimmy Graham, and got a ball thrown to him to open up this game in that first possession, but haven't heard much from him.
Wide snap. Wilson gets hit as the ball comes out. No signal yet. And now finally John Perry blows his whistle and says incomplete pass. It was Dunlap who made the play.
Carlos Dunlap, he comes off the edge, and Garrett Gilliam is going to slow that down. He didn't do a very good job. You see the jump that Dunlap gets off the ball, and he's right into Russell Wilson. And it looked to me like Wilson was trying to get the ball to Jimmy Graham on the play, and It's a similar hit that Drew Brees has taken that caused some shoulder issues for him, but Russell Wilson appears to be fine.
Another wide snap by Drew Nowak. The new center, this one's better. He's been plagued with that. Now Wilson in trouble. He's going to float it. He's got Lockett inside the 30, and with 10 seconds left, timeout Seattle. Tyler Lockett with just his second catch of the season. The rookie good for 22, and a good job by Wilson to keep his eyes downfield.
Yeah, and that's what he has to do. I mean, knowing that the pressure is going to get to him, he's got to be able to navigate those rushers. An excellent job on his part. And Tyler Lockett, who had lined up on the left side of the field, he's working all the way across and is able to free himself open, and Russell Wilson finds him.
Wilson now 8 for 10 for the game, 4 of 5 on this drive. The Visa halftime is coming up. But Seattle is in a position for points and a lead here at the end of the half after the pick by Thomas. And then that play by Russell Wilson, who's signed to a new 4-year deal with over $60 million guaranteed. Chancellor had his holdout. That ended without a new deal. Andy Dalton, he's had his contract extended. And he's wondering if this will be points off the turnover for Seattle. Wilson over the middle, Graham. He's down inside the 10, and a timeout will be taken by Seattle, their final timeout.
Yeah, it was a nice job of Russell Wilson, knowing that there's 10 seconds on the clock. And, you know, Jimmy Graham, he had to get going right towards the goal line. If you start running side to side, all of a sudden, if you don't score, you're going to run down that 10-second clock. So an excellent job by Seattle of being able to maneuver the ball down the field, get the ball here to Jimmy Graham, and set up a short field goal attempt for this Seattle team.
The secondary for Cincinnati was all pushed back, and they just had to keep Graham out of the end zone, which they did. Jimmy Graham, 2 catches in this half, 26 yards, and Hauschka now with a 24-yard attempt. Russell Wilson was 5 for 6 on that drive for 76 yards. Cincinnati, a team that has dominated the first half so far this season. Is trailing by 3. Well, the Seahawks came into this game surprisingly with no interceptions this season. They get one, and it's Earl Thomas, the veteran safety, giving Seattle a chance. And they took advantage. 10-7, Kurt, all yours. We're at the half. Today's excitement brought to you by Nissan. That was today's excitement, at least half of it. We've got a half to go. Brought to you by Nissan. The stats after one half play. See the total yards about even. One takeaway belongs to Seattle. They're finally able to come up with an interception. They came in as one of only 3 teams without one. And the time of possession favors Cincinnati.
A little more offense really than I anticipated coming into this ball game. Both teams did a nice job on their opening possession, and then the defenses stepped in like I thought that they would. And then they end the half with some offense as well. Costly interception obviously by Andy Dalton. The Bengals were in field goal range, and a big penalty on Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle, that nullified the touchdown to A.J. Green.
Here's the rookie Lockett. He's already got 1 for a touchdown this season. It's not going to happen here. Can't get to the 20. They mark him at the 19. Brought down by Rex Burkhead down to Aaron.
Thanks, Joe. We talked a lot about this Seattle offensive line. So many questions going into this game. I just talked to Pete Carroll coming out of the half, and he said, I thought the line did great. He said, we're communicating, we protected the quarterback, and we were finally able to run the ball. He said, all is well in that department. Marvin Lewis, though, not so happy with the way Russell Wilson late in that first half was able to keep plays alive. He said, we got to get to him quick, and we got to get to him fast. Joe?
We'll see if they can. Rawls right side. Good work up front by the Cincinnati defense. As you said early, Troy, the Bengals came in with 11 sacks, all 11 by defensive linemen. So this is a tough group to handle up front, and it's been pretty good for Seattle so far.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, when you consider what's happened with this offensive line through the first 4 weeks, and there's been pressure at times with Russell Wilson, but he's been able to navigate that. The big thing, like Darrell Bevel said, is they've been able to run the ball. In that first half, over 50 yards rushing by Thomas Rawls. Of course, he had the 20-plus yarder on one of those carries.
Here's Rawls. Second down out across the 25. Here we go. The pickup 8, Ray Maualuga. On the tackle, 3rd down and 2.
That offensive line there on second down, 2nd and long, and being able to run the football, and now, making it a very manageable 3rd and 2. So we're seeing some growth, I guess you could say, with the group up front. There was talk about Patrick Lewis maybe getting some playing time here today at the center position, but has not gotten in the game yet at this time.
On 3rd down, pass is caught by Graham for a 1st down. 3rd catch for Jimmy Graham. Everybody's been obsessed with how many targets and therefore how many catches Graham has had so far. He's still trying to figure out the offense and be able to just react instead of think out there for Seattle.
He's been criticized a lot here in the last few weeks about his lack of blocking. That's not why they traded for him. He wasn't blocking in New Orleans either. He is being asked to do some things differently, but he's having to learn some things in the passing game as well.
Rawls brought down by Ray, a gain of 5.
You watch him, Joe, and when he's running routes, he's not running routes with the same confidence that he did there in New Orleans. He and Drew Brees, they had a great relationship, knew exactly what the other one was thinking. That takes a little bit of time to develop. I thought it was interesting in talking to him the other day that it's a different relationship now with Russell Wilson. Drew Brees was like a big brother to him, and now, Russell Wilson and he have, came into the league about the same time, have both accomplished a lot of things, and he's being asked for the first time what he thinks about a lot of things.
Here's Ron Smith, just activated off the practice squad. 2nd down and 5, he gets 2, 3rd and short coming up. Maualuga on the tackle again for the Bengals. So far, Seattle 3 for 5 on 3rd down. It's 3rd and 3. On 3rd down, floated for Baldwin. Got behind the defender, and Baldwin is down inside the 20. Got behind Denard and picks up 47.
We showed earlier in the game the job that Russell Wilson did with protection. This time he does the same thing. He knows he's going to take a hit. The Bengals are bringing extra people, and you see Denard, he sits on the route. He thinks the ball is going to be thrown quickly. Instead, Russell hangs in there. He got a big play.
Here's one batted in the air and picked off by Cincinnati. Intercepted by Adam Jones. And now each side with an interception near the other team's end zone. Bengals take over as they trail by 3. For Adam Jones, pick number 2 on the year.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide, only with Southwest. By Burger King, kick off fall with a new Oreo Pumpkin Sprite Shake. By Corona, who invites you to find your beach. And by the Lincoln Motor Company and the entirely new Lincoln MKX.
Russell Wilson just threw his third career red zone interception.
Well, it's an excellent job by these two linebackers, Vincent Ray and then Ray Maualuga, who got his hand on the ball, and they squeeze Jimmy Ray, and the ball goes up, and Adam Jones able to locate it.
Here's Jeremy Hill, not much. So Cincinnati and Andy Dalton, they throw a touchdown, or rather an interception going in for the touchdown toward the end of the first half. And now Seattle and Russell Wilson, they return the favor. We go back to the interception.
Now you get a little better look at it here. You see that Jimmy Graham, he's trying to sit it down in the zone, but it was another forced throw by Russell Wilson. I say another, that's the same thing that hurt Andy Dalton on his interception, was trying to force one down the field with Earl Thomas. This time the same thing with Russell Wilson.
Out of the backfield, it's Hill. Lowers his shoulder and has a first down for Cincinnati as he plows into Bobby Wagner. Yards from Jeremy Hill. They've thrown it to him a couple of times today. He came in with only one catch on the year.
Not a guy who has gotten a lot of balls thrown to him, but that goes to Gio Bernard most of the time. He's their one-back guy, their third down back, but they say that Jeremy Hill has as good a hands as any of the backs that they have on the team.
All the way out, all the way out.
Good team! Good help.
Hill gonna pick up the rate.
Look at the squad, Joe, offensively for Cincinnati, and man, just what a lot of ways that they could come at you and beat you. Jeremy Hill, I like him, a physical downhill runner, and of course I've talked about Gio Bernard, but they've got a lot of different ways to create some matchup issues, and I think on both sides of the ball, really, it's no wonder that so many have looked at this team and have thought, hey, they can contend for the Super Bowl, and they're certainly capable. One of the most talented teams, certainly that we've seen in the last few years.
Low snap, good catch by Dalton. 2nd and 7, pass nearly picked by Richard Sherman. A.J. Green, the intended target, 3rd and 7.
Well, I'm not sure what Andy Dalton was thinking on this play, because you've got to be really precise with the football. It looks like he was thinking, I'm going to make the back shoulder throw. A.J. Green was not anticipating it. Richard Sherman, a very tough play for him to make. I've seen him make that play a lot of times, as you have as well. And he was a wide receiver for a time there at Stanford, and he plays the ball as well as any corner in football, and that's why he's so dangerous. He's on the offensive when he's playing on the defensive side of the ball.
He's got 24 career interceptions, 3rd and 7. Pass is caught for a first down by Jones. Kerry Williams defending, and another completion from Andy Dalton on 3rd down. Good for 8.
Really good job, good ball placement. Excellent route, Marvin Jones. He gets inside. Not bad coverage by Kerry Williams. Very difficult to defend once the receiver gets inside position.
This ball came out, and we're going to get a challenge now from the Seattle
in the previous play.
Sideline.
We'll review the.
This will be the 3rd challenge of the year for Pete Carroll. He has won 1 of the first 2. I think he's about to go 2 for 3. About to get the call.
After reviewing the play, it's an incomplete pass. The receiver did not maintain possession of the football. The ball hit the ground. It'll be 4th and 7 on the right hash, 19-yard line. Please reset the game clock to 8:59. 8:59, the clock will start on the snap. Seattle is not charged with their first timeout.
Good challenge by Pete Carroll. Play was a 3rd and 7 at the 19, ruled an 8-yard catch. And a first down, and with the reversal, it's 4th down. Huber to punt, Pro Bowler a year ago. We've seen teams punting away from Tyler Lockett. He's coming to get this one with a fair catch. Outside his own 30. Seattle with the football in a 3-point lead.
Today's game is sponsored by Verizon. Watch live local games with NFL Mobile only on Verizon.
Back in Cincinnati, Richard Sherman and Pete Carroll. Pete, a former defensive back himself at the University of the Pacific. Long chat during the break. We've seen Sherman switch sides today. I think we've made enough of the fact that the Seahawks again are without Marshawn Lynch, NFL's rushing leader since 2011. Got Rawls in at tailback. He gets it, cuts it back, and a good run by Rawls out across midfield. Inside the 35 and still going for the touchdown. It's the first rushing touchdown, and it's a bigger lead for Seattle. And how about the offensive line and Thomas Rawls?
They do an excellent job. Tom Cable, we saw him at the end of that play. He's got to be excited when he takes a look at how well this offensive line did in their combination blocking. They crush down the front side. They open up the backside with Russell Okun making a key block. And then it's all Thomas Rawls. Just one cut, he is off to the races. Just an outstanding job of execution.
Reggie Nelson had a chance to bring down Rawls well short of the end zone. Rawls went through him. And this to make it a 10-point game. (17-7) here in Cincinnati, and it's the offensive line and the ground game. It's been impressive.
Yeah, that offensive line has just done an excellent job. You know, we've seen them grow as this game has progressed, certainly from where they were a week ago against the Lions. And Tom Cable, as I talked about earlier, he's had his work cut out for him. He's done an outstanding job with this group this week.
Yeah, and I was just saying as the touchdown run took place by Rawls that we haven't made a ton about the fact that, well, Marshawn Lynch isn't here for the second straight week. You could make the case that he's as important as any player is to any unit on any team in the NFL, and then right on cue, Thomas Rawls rips off the long touchdown.
Well, I would agree with that. Marshawn Lynch, he really is the heartbeat of this offense, and you know the way that he's able to pound the football and be physical, that's where they get that from. But I know they like this Thomas Rawls, another undrafted free agent for this football team. They said he has a similar style to Marshawn Lynch, but an excellent job there, just with one cut, recognizing what he had on the backside of that blocking scheme, but all set up by that offensive line. They've been beaten up quite a bit here over the first 4 weeks of the season, but they're having a good day here against what I think is a really good defensive front by the Bengals.
We saw that stat, first rushing touchdown of the season for Seattle, first rushing touchdown allowed by Cincinnati's good defense. And it's a 10-point game. Tate thought about it, going to bring it out, and that's the third time he's done that in the game. And this crowd is getting frustrated with that. Brandon Tate with another poor decision. How about Rawls? It wasn't free and clear. Nelson had a shot at him, and Thomas just kept on plowing.
They got the ball high and tight. They've taught him well there in Central Michigan and protecting the football. You know, obviously a play right there that Nelson has to make. And Tom Cable, and you think about it, since he's been in Seattle, they took J.R. Sweezy in the 7th round, a defensive lineman, and turned him into their starting right guard. That was a project for Tom Cable, and he's been asked to do the same thing with their center, Drew Nowak, who, as we know, struggled on Monday night. Played defense, moved to offense, playing center for the first time. But that's the kind of trust and confidence they have. Tom Cable is one of the best in the business.
Eric Winston has taken over at right tackle for Cincinnati for Andre Smith. Try to get word on what happened to Smith as Bernard carries it right side for 4 yards. They're looking at the elbow of Andre Smith. So Winston, who filled in earlier in the game at guard, is now out at right tackle. By the way, that 69-yard touchdown run by Rawls, second longest run in the NFL this season. Ronnie Hillman, 72-yarder against the Vikings last week, is number 1. 2nd and 6. Out of the backfield, good play as Bernard made the catch and KJ Wright made the hit. A gain of 2, 3rd and 4 coming up.
That's why this defense is there's a lot of reasons why this defense is good, but their linebacker play is really what differentiates them from a lot of other defensive groups, because they're able to match up against some speed guys, and KJ Wright, to be able to close on a guy like Bernard the way that he just did, pretty impressive.
Third down and 4. Pass is caught for the first down. That's Eifert. And he made the catch in heavy traffic, good for 5.
Yeah, knowing you're going to get blown up and concentrate on the football and the bang play, but just enough for the first down.
See that brace on the right arm, the elbow of Tyler Eifert. He was injured in week 1 last year. Marvin Jones missed all of last year. A.J. Green missed 4 games, including the playoff game. Weapons are back for Dalton. Here's a handoff and a fumble. Here's Wagner back for the touchdown, Seattle. Michael Bennett knocked it out. They tried to reverse it to Rex Burkhead. And Wagner gets the touchdown to open up this lead.
Well, no fault to Burkhead. They don't block Michael Bennett. You're going to see right after the exchange, Michael Bennett is in the backfield. Nobody picks him up off the line of scrimmage, and it just surprises Burkhead immediately and not able to then to secure the ball, and Wagner there to pick it up. But I don't know if it was a blown assignment or they're just expecting to be able to influence Michael Bennett off the line of scrimmage. But he shoots the gap. As you see, they don't touch him at all. Not a good idea.
Seahawks now have scored 2 touchdowns in 117 seconds to lead by 17. The 4-0 Cincinnati Bengals here at home in front of a sold-out crowd, but it's Seattle that's taken over, leading by 17 after the touchdown by Bobby Wagner. Well, this defense is playing now. They get Cam Chancellor back. They've got their first interception of the season today. Now a fumble return for a touchdown by Bobby Wagner. He's one of the best young linebackers in the NFL. Maybe the best young linebacker not named Luke Kuechly. Maybe Wagner's just as good. He's getting better and better as the years go by in his 4th year. He was there to pick it up and take it in. 23 yards. Make it a 17-point game. Here's a return by Tate. This time he's at least able to cross the 20. Brought down by Ricardo Lockett. The ALDS returns to FS1 tonight, Game 3 between Toronto and Texas. It's been fun to watch Frank Thomas and Pete Rose go back and forth on the pregame show. Hey, don't miss the action only on FS1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. The Rangers up 2-0, winners of the AL West. Back to the fumble.
Yeah, there's another look. You see Michael Bennett. He comes off the line of scrimmage untouched. You just wonder. We talked about Eric Winston coming in for Andre Smith at right tackle. You know, was it him or was it Kevin Zeitler, the right guard? You can't imagine that you're just going to turn a defensive lineman loose on a play like that, on a reverse, but they did, and it made him, Michael Bennett made him pay.
Seattle was offside on that last kickoff, so they tack on 5 yards. The ball is at the 28. That's where the drive starts. Pass out of the reach of Bernard. You remember how Cincinnati started this game. They marched right down the field and scored a touchdown. But since then, 3 punts, an interception, a fumble. They had a long 72-yard touchdown called back because of a hold, and Dalton threw an interception going in just before the half to the Seattle end zone. 2nd and 10. Blitz. Bengals pick it up. Down the sideline, and a flag flies. Marvin Jones, the target. Gary Williams incensed. He's back there in coverage.
Now let's take a look at it. You see the arm bar right there.
Number 26.
And they get caught up with their legs. I think it was a good call, actually. You extend out the left arm like he did, and even though Marvin Jones was able to run through that initially, and then they get caught up, but I think it was a good call there by the official. You know, these Bengals, they're not accustomed to playing from behind. Coming into this game, less than 2 minutes of this season, we're playing from a deficit.
Here's a ball that was tipped. And and then off the hands of Bernard. That was a 29-yard penalty, by the way, for the first down on the pass interference against Kerry Williams.
And so now you look at this game, and it's still plenty of time, of course. There's a quarter and a half left to play, but with a 17-point deficit, Cincinnati gets out of really what they've been about. Yeah, they've gotten big plays down the field throughout the season, but they have run the ball 51% of the time, and certainly when you're behind like this, a lot of that goes out of the playbook, and they're going to have to start throwing the ball more than what they've had to, at least this year.
Andre Smith back in at right tackle, and a sack as the Seahawks defense keeps coming. Deshaun Shedd coming in from the secondary. He gets it, a loss of 5, and for Shedd, that's his first of the year.
Well, they bring Shedd off the slot receiver, and Andy Dalton never sees it. Looked like the offensive line, they could have picked it up if they're directed that way. I don't know that they were, but nevertheless, they got a free rusher on Dalton. He gets sacked.
Bengals had allowed 2 sacks through the first 4 games. They've allowed 2 today. 3rd and 15 now. Dalton throws it away. And this Seattle defense is humming now. It's 4th down. Great coverage by the Seahawks.
Excellent coverage down the field. They've been able to get pressure then on Dalton in the pocket. We saw the blitz off the edge. Here's that last play. Dalton trying to buy himself some time. Richard Sherman on A.J. Green. And I've seen this defense a lot of times. Once they get cranked up and they start getting some momentum in their direction, they're hard to move the football against.
Chris Richard, the defensive coordinator for Seattle. His first year, and his group is playing very well here on the road. Good play downfield. It was Tate who saved it. And then it was down by Denard. The drive up by 17 will start near their own end zone for the Seahawks. We have witnessed some big hits, and we've witnessed Seattle taking over this game here in Cincinnati, but now an opportunity for the Bengals defense to make a play. Drive starts at the 2. Hand off to Rawls. Good play by Reggie Nelson. And Rawls coming off that 69-yard touchdown run, good for 2. This season stream live local Sunday afternoon games right on your smartphone with NFL Mobile. 2nd down and 8.
Well, you talked about it, Joe. You get this offense backed up and you're down this many points, and you got a good defensive front. Geno Atkins not in the game. But it's time for this front to make a play.
Penalty flag, free play, and it's the fullback, Tukuafu. Looked like the defense came across, and it is against Cincinnati. But now asking Pete Carroll, does he want to accept the penalty or not?
Offside, defense, number 94, 5-yard penalty. We will replay, 2nd down.
We talked about it a little bit earlier in this ball game when Seattle was backed up and you get a chance to use hard count. You don't lose much if you draw your own guy off sides. So this time they get the defense, and nice job now making it a very short 2nd down.
I'd like to put a Fitbit on Pete Carroll and see what kind of mileage he racks up during the course of a game. 64 years old. Doesn't look it. Full of fire. 2nd down and 3. Not that 64 is old. Here's Rawls for the first down.
There's supposed to be a little pressure involved in this job, but if there is, Pete Carroll doesn't show it, does he? He did when he was at USC and hasn't while he's been here in Seattle. I mean, there's nobody having more fun as a coach in this league than what Pete Carroll is, and part of that is he's been on the winning side a lot of times over the course of his career, both at SC and here.
59 and 35 with Seattle, including 7 and 3 in the postseason and a winner in Super Bowl 48. Heartbreaking loss last year to New England. On first down, Wilson airs it out. Down the sideline, the rookie, Lockett, he's got it. What a throw and what a catch, working on Drake Kirkpatrick, good for 40.
Boy, Drake Kirkpatrick, he was beat bad.
I don't know. And a challenge flag comes out. That looked like left foot down, right foot out of bounds.
Cincinnati's challenged the previous play of a completed catch versus incomplete at the sideline. We'll review the play.
Well, we've seen Seattle challenge successfully. Catch, left foot in, right foot out. This play's coming back. And while they're looking at it, we'll go to Mike Hill with a game break.
All right, guys, you think James Jones is happy to be back in Green Bay? Helps when you got Aaron Rodgers throwing you the football. Rodgers, the Jones, 65 yards, gets him 6. Already his 5th TD of the season. He had 6 all of last season in Oakland. 21-10 Packers over the Rams in the 3rd. Joe, T-Roy, back to you.
All right, Mike, thank you. Well, yeah, I would say the answer to that question is yes. You think anybody's happy they picked James Jones up in fantasy football after he got released by the Giants? You think the Giants would like to have that decision back?
Hard to believe. I said it back when we had the Packers week 1 that James Jones couldn't make the Raiders or the Giants, but he could make the Green Bay Packers. A great pickup by then, and you saw there that he was out of bounds. Drake Kirkpatrick was beat bad off the line of scrimmage, and you know, Russell Wilson, if he just leads them and keeps them in play, it was a pretty easy completion. The ball hung up on him a little bit. Looks like that one's going to come back. But this defense has, like I said, they had them backed up. They got a chance to make a play defensively and get the ball right back to their offense. And Seattle's stringing some plays together.
Here's the call by John Perry.
After review, it's an incomplete pass. The second foot was out of bounds. It'll be 2nd and 10, the 13-yard line. Clock will remain at 3:28 and start on the snap. Cincinnati is not charged with the timeout.
I like John Perry. He doesn't go with the whole drama thing. He just says right away, incomplete pass. And a good challenge by Marvin Lewis, who's now also 2 for 3 in challenges this season. 2nd and 10. What a turnaround it's been. Since the end of the first quarter, it's been all Seattle, both offensively and defensively. With an interception and a fumble return for a touchdown. Couple of sacks as well. But Cincinnati's defense better make a play here, or it will be in the category of getting late.
Yeah, they need to make a stop, and they had been able to make a stop right away. You know, they able to get the ball back to their offense with outstanding field position, but obviously an important defensive possession here for the Bengals.
2nd down and 10. Here's Rawls. Boy, he just fights through tackles. Brought down at the 19-yard line by Maualuga. Gain of 7.
Yeah, tough running. I've been impressed with him. And like I said, when you come into this game, and of course Marshawn was out last week, and you just wonder what you're going to get running the football. You know, Cincinnati, their run defense, as I said earlier in the ball game, it looks better than what it probably really had been, because a couple of teams had run the ball well against them.
3rd down and 3. Wilson is sacked. Dunlap. And the Bengals make a play. A loss of 7.
Well, Dunlap, he's had himself a nice afternoon, being able to get after the quarterback. Good coverage on the back end by Cincinnati, and just not much of a chance there for Russell Wilson. Dunlap, we've seen him get by Garrett Gilliam, the right tackle, a few times in this ballgame.
Adam Jones now waiting for the punt. Second sack today for Cincinnati comes at a good time. Ryan hits a low liner. Jones room to run with one blocker in front of him. And He spins across the 45, and you can add 15 onto it. That was a late hit, and it'll bring the ball inside Seattle territory. It'll be a 57-yard punt, a 16-yard return, and then add 15 yards at the end because of that, as they threw the flag on Mike Morgan.
Yeah, I saw the same thing you did, Joe. Looks like that's what they're going to.
During the return, illegal block in the back, return
Or
team
not.
number 47. 10-yard penalty, 1st and 10.
Well, this crowd was anticipating the same thing. That's right when they threw the flag, but instead of that late hit by Morgan, they get an illegal block in the back against P.J. Dawson. And so instead of going 15 to the right, as we look at it, it's 15 to the left, and there's Dawson, 47.
P.J. Dawson, he hits Derek Coleman.
Right there.
Back, that's what they call it. I thought they were going to get Mike Morgan for the late hit as well. So what was going to be outstanding field position for Cincinnati, even without a penalty, they get backed up because of that hit.
At the 33. Flag flies as Dalton gets rid of it. It's a hold against Cincinnati, so they're going backward.
Holding, offense number 71, 10-yard penalty, replay, 1st down.
They get Andre Smith, who was getting his elbow worked on earlier, back in there, and there he is, 71.
Well, it looked almost more like self-defense. I couldn't tell who that was exactly. It looked like Cliff Averill. Sure enough, they ran right over the top of him. Watch this job that Averill does, just backs him right up, and then he pulls him down, and he gets called for the hold.
It's the 3rd offensive holding call against Cincinnati, 1st and 20. Pass caught, tight end Eifert. He gets the 10 yards back, plus he gets 12. Up to the 35-yard line, 2nd and 8. Good completion on 1st and 20 for Cincinnati, but now coming up on a minute and a half left in the 3rd quarter.
Cincinnati, they're going to start speeding things up now offensively.
2nd and 8.
Got a chance up top, Joe, if they want to take a shot down the field.
That's Jones up there. And sacked again. This time it's Bennett. And the offensive line is breaking down for Cincinnati. A loss of 5.
They run a twist up front defensively, which freed up Bennett for a clear shot. They were looking to that side up top, that 3-on-3 and 1-on-1 on the top of the screen. But here's Michael Bennett. The job that he does in being able to get a clean shot on Andy Dalton.
That's more sacks allowed today than through the first 4 games for the Cincinnati offense. Now 3rd and 13. Pass is underneath, and Dalton can't find anywhere to go with the football. Tyler Eifert the intended target, but that was nowhere near the yardage needed, and just an overwhelming effort now by Seattle's defense.
Well, Seattle, as we said, they have given up some big plays this year. That's not something you really see a lot of from this defense. They're very disciplined and they're well coached, but the underneath coverage is difficult to navigate. And right now, when the Bengals are having to throw the football, they're just not able to really free anybody up.
Lockett. Good play downfield. Play made by Tyler Croft. So now the Seattle offense, which includes Jimmy Graham, who has an interesting hobby. Aaron?
Yeah, we loved hearing this story yesterday. Jimmy Graham, a pilot. He was telling us all about the planes he has, and now that he's moved to Seattle, he's actually building a seaplane. You see him right here doing aerobatics. Yes, I talked to Doug Baldwin. We talked to Pete Carroll about this. They said they are good to let this guy go on the plane with him. And Troy and I loved this part. He would go from New Orleans to the Keys just to get lunch, down to Vancouver to get some sushi. I'm game. I love it. It's like the Pretty Woman movie.
In fact, it was on one of those excursions for lunch. He leaves New Orleans and heads to Florida in the offseason to have an afternoon on the beach, and that's when he got the call from Sean Payton telling him, this is not a joke. We've just traded you to Seattle. I don't know what that flight back was like.
That would have to be done in shock. Here's Rawls. I don't know who was more shocked about that trade, Graham or Drew Brees.
Well, I can assure you I know how Brees felt.
It's a 17-point game after 3. Off to the fourth quarter we go. Dominant effort by the Seahawks. Back after this from your local Fox station. Over the first 4 games, Cincinnati, as Troy said, had spent less than 2 minutes total trailing. As they ran the record of 4-0. Today, 15 full. And now we're into the final 15 minutes. 2nd down and 7 for Seattle. Ball at their own 19. Rawls, he's had a big day. 18 carries now, 153 yards, and we always wondered who would the next back be for Seattle. Robert Turbin was the guy who was behind him, and then he got hurt. They cut him at the end of camp, and now he's picked up by Cleveland. Kristen Michael was traded to Dallas. They end up with Thomas Rawls. He's looked great today.
Well, the running game is important for all teams. It's especially important for this team. And we're seeing today, what a difference makes being able to run the football. Thomas Rawls has been outstanding, as you said. This offensive line has been just as good.
3rd down and 4. Wilson fires down the sideline, incomplete for Jermaine Kearse. And it's 4th down.
An excellent job again by this defense for Cincinnati, knowing they've got to make some stops. They can't allow the Seahawks to take time off the clock, and so they force a punt. We'll see whether or not Cincinnati's able to get anything going, but time's running out.
Adam Jones waiting again for the punt. John Ryan. Line drive. Opportunity for Jones. Cincinnati needs one, and they get one. A great return from Adam Jones. And after a 46-yard punt, it's a 35-yard return, and it took the punter, John Ryan, to make the tackle. And that's a little jolt here for Cincinnati.
Well, it's a great job by Adam Jones and his punt return team and being able to give the ball back to their offense with outstanding field position.
Well, so now Cincinnati takes over. We can talk about the offense for the Bengals and what they need to do. They need to protect better, and they need to give Dalton a little more time. But this looks more like the Seahawks team we're used to seeing here today.
I do think that Cam Chancellor coming back has had a profound impact on this defense.
Here's Bernard.
It was easy to say, Joe, the last couple of weeks, but they didn't face an offense like Cincinnati, today. And so this was going to be the real test for this defense as to where they are. And yeah, they're playing with great confidence. They're flying around, and they've done some nice things, especially here in the second half against a really explosive offensive attack.
Cincinnati opened the game with an 86-yard touchdown drive. Since then, 7 possessions, 5 punts, and 2 turnovers. Handoff is to Bernard. And Bernard hits the hole with a head of steam, and he's got a first down inside the 15. A 13-yard carry. Here's Kurt with a game break.
Speaking of 13 in 13 seconds, the Philadelphia Eagles scored 2 touchdowns. This 13-yarder to Brent Selleck gave them a 23-10 lead over the New Orleans Saints. Joe, Troy, and Eric.
Where the Eagles need that. Meanwhile, the Seahawks don't need to see this. And that's Bobby Wagner injured on that last carry by Bernard. 13-yarder, which was Cincinnati's longest run of the day, and Wagner takes a knee as they look at him on the field.
Well, clearly you see Bobby Wagner down, and what that, depending on the seriousness of the injury, what it would mean to this defense not having him in the lineup. They've got a lot of playmakers, but Bobby Wagner has really come into his own this season.
That's him stretching out to try to make the tackle. I'm not so sure Wagner couldn't have gotten off the field to get looked at, but I think the sideline told Bobby to just take a knee, take a breath, give the defense a chance to catch their breath, and try and stand up here and make a play here against Cincinnati. Bengals trying to get back in this game. First down from the 14, handoff to Bernard. And Giovanni takes it to the 10.
We'll go back to that last play, Joe, that they ran just prior to this. It was off that same action that we saw Burkhead fumble because they didn't block Michael Bennett inside. Well, they ran the same action. They didn't block Michael Bennett that play either, and he got up the field, and makes me start to wonder whether or not anybody really messed up on that previous play when the ball was on the ground. Same design there, but this time they get the over-aggressiveness of Seattle, and they're able to hit it in the middle.
Second and 6. Dalton, end zone, man open, touchdown Eifert. Number 2 on the day for Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, Eifert vertical off the ball, and they just don't carry him up the seam. It was Cam Chancellor, again, who has flat support, defensive position. He doesn't carry him up the seam, and then you've got Kerry Williams who's trying to come off of his man on the outside. They just exploit the weakness within that zone, and a touchdown for the Bengals.
It's a 10-yard touchdown catch by Eifert. Good catch as Dalton found him, and it was set up by the Adam Jones season best 35-yard punt return. Eifert into the end zone, and it's now a 10-point game in Cincinnati.
Today's game is sponsored by Subway Restaurants. Get to Subway for the chicken and bacon ranch melt. Subway, eat fresh. By Microsoft Surface, the official tablet of the NFL. And by DirecTV. Don't just watch TV, DirecTV.
A&W style drive-in in Hamilton, serving hot dogs and root beers for over 75 years. Jake Jolivet is in our truck from Cincinnati, so we know more about the city than Marty Brenneman as we go through this day. For the Bengals and the Seahawks, now a 10-point game. Lockett will take a knee. We will take a break. Seattle will start at the 20, up 10. How's this one going to end? 12-18 left in the fourth quarter, and Seattle up by 10 starting at the 20, and the defense for Cincinnati begging the crowd to get back into it. Rawls split out wide to the left, pass over the middle to Luke Wilson, the tight end. Tyler Eifert with a 2-touchdown day, and they look similar.
Yeah, carbon copies of each other. See Tyler Eifert there at the tight end position. He just runs deep up the seam route there. That's the first touchdown. You come back to the second one. Now watch Earl Thomas over here. He's been cheating to that other side on both of those touchdowns. Either he has to play it more neutral in the middle and then react to that throw, or Cam Chancellor has to carry it. But neither thing's happened, and 2 easy touchdowns for the Bengals.
Pretty good spot on that catch and rumble by Wilson, and now Rawls is going to have enough for a first down.
Well, and with over 11 minutes to play, I mean, still plenty of time. And if Cincinnati's able to make a stop and get the ball right back to their offense, the Bengals can go back to running their offense, whether that's, you know, running the football or throwing the football, but they've got some options then. They don't have to go into such a hurry-up mode. So that was a big touchdown, getting them back into it, doing it with still a lot of time left in this game.
Rawls, 35. Second down coming up. day for Rawls, 20 carries, 160 yards. In place of the injured Marshawn Lynch. Lynch did practice this week, by the way, out with a hamstring strain. They hope to have him back for their Carolina game next week.
What's up?
Rawls again. Hit by Pecco. And Rawls, who has more yardage today than he had for the season coming in, is brought down. Third down coming up. Third down and a couple.
That's a big time collision there with Pecco and Rawls. Pecco doing a good job coming off the block. That was a big time collision.
This would be a big first down if Seattle could convert. Wilson spinning around. Down he goes, gets back up, and then just throws it away. And it's fourth down. The incomplete pass stops the clock at 9:39.
It's an outstanding job by the Bengals. Russell Wilson tries using the hard count to draw him off sides. They hung in there well, and then they contained him once he started scrambling around. Just a good defensive series there by Cincinnati, forcing the punt.
One first down on that possession. Fourth down, Ryan to punt. Now it's Tate waiting for the punt, not Jones. That was close, nearly blocked. Tate on the return. Decent return up near the 30. Didn't get all the way there. They'll mark him at the 29. Cincinnati with it right back, down 10.
This game is sponsored by Visa Checkout, the easier way to pay online. Sign up now.
Together, the NFL and the American Cancer Society encourage everyone to join in the fight against breast cancer. Learn more about A Crucial Catch Day on October 13th and find out how you can help make a crucial catch at NFL.com/pink. Drive starts at the 29-yard line. Cincinnati down 10. Pass caught. Just across the 34-yard line by Marvin Jones, a gain of 6.
Joe, we saw early in the game the job that A.J. Green was doing. They were creating some big plays down the field to him, and Kerry Williams was in coverage. And you know, as we pointed out, since then, Richard Sherman has been on him most of the time. He is here again. And he has not caught a ball here in this second half, only targeted one time. I thought Andy Dalton would continue to throw his way, but he hasn't. I think he's got to start giving him some opportunities, because he hasn't gotten any looks really in this second half of the game.
Second and 4. Here's Sanu. Breaks a tackle, has a first down up near the 44. Went around Chancellor. Here's Aaron.
Bobby Wagner is back in the game after we were told he was questionable return with a right shoulder injury. He got hurt sometime in the first half of this game, guys, because that's when they had to tape it up. He was fighting with the athletic training staff after they were trying to test that shoulder and said he was ready to go. Bruce Irvin is on the sidelines. He was limping around but told trainers he was fine.
All right, Aaron, thank you. So Wagner back in there. That's a big piece for Seattle. Clock is running, 8:10 left. On first down, Dalton is sacked. Tried to step through trouble, could not make it. Cassius Marsh is there for the stop. Cassius is a second-year player out of UCLA, a fourth-round pick a year ago, and here's the coverage.
And not bad coverage down the field, and Andy Dalton just didn't look like he really knew exactly where he was going to go with the ball. The pocket is starting to collapse on him and just unable to escape it. That time they had Richard Sherman matched up on Marvin Jones.
Fourth sack for the Seattle defense. And a timeout is taken by the Bengals. So we'll step aside. Second down when we come back. Cincy with the ball down 10. Cincinnati's going to have to make these possessions count. Second down and 13 with the ball at their own 41. Down by 10.
Easy. Go L50. No. Hey, you're 554. 554. Hey, easy. Hey, we're going 54. You're 18. Hey, up.
Blitz. Throw caught. Pass is caught by Sanu. And they've gone to Sanu twice now on this possession. This one a big one. Good for over 20 yards, 25 for a first down Bengals.
That's an excellent route by Mohamed Sanu in the slot position that frees himself up. And what a job Andy Dalton does at the line of scrimmage. He sorts through it. He gets the protection that he wants. He knows he's getting pressure and the ball's out. And an excellent job of complete pass for the first down.
Here's Bernard. Good push up front by Seattle's defense. No gain. KJ Wright was in there for the Seahawks, not alone.
Yeah, overall, Cincinnati just, you wouldn't expect it much coming in. You got to maintain some balance. You can't just constantly throw the ball as you come into this game. But it's a hard defense to run the football against. They've not run the ball all that well. Bernard's been really the only guy with any kind of success. Jeremy Hill, not much at all. It's been right now, when you look at it, it's going to come down to Andy Dalton.
Another pass to Sanu. He's inside the 30. Right now the Bengals are averaging 3.1 yards per carry. So you're right, Seattle's defense has stepped it up there. Now third down and 4.
Yeah, Jeremy Hill, he just has 13 yards on 8 carries. So they've been able to hit him on some quick hitters with Bernard, but just nothing that they can really rely on a consistent basis.
No catches for A.J. Green in the second half.
Yeah, well, they got to start throwing him the ball. I mean, I know that he's got an awfully good player against him. Richard Sherman is outstanding. But we've seen him make some catches in the first half against him. You've got to give him some chances.
Easy. 54. Walk up. Let's go. 18. Hands on.
Just got it away. Dalton backing up as he throws. There's Sanu again for a first down. The clock continues to wind as he takes it to the 21.
Looked like initially Dalton may take a shot down the field to Marvin Jones, but he had Sanu working that inside position, knowing that he was open, he had separation, he could pick up the first down.
Watch it, Whit. 18. Hands up.
Dalton pass is caught by Eifert. Had to dive to grab it. Had a little room out there. And Dalton been able to hit him a little more on his body, a gain of 7.
I think just a miscommunication between those two guys. Dalton thought he was going to run out of the break. Instead, Eifert pulled up.
Perfect drive thrown it for Dalton. Delayed handoff. First down, Giovanni Bernard. He takes it to the 6. Bengals right back up to the line. Dalton keeps it to the 5. And that doesn't accomplish anything except running more time off the clock. A gain of 1. Averill on the tackle. And Dalton wants him to hurry up.
Well, Averill played that beautifully. It was actually a true read option. Had he have handed it off, it looked like Bernard had somewhere to go with it. But Averill collapses on it, and then he's still able to come out and make a play on Dalton. Just an excellent job on his part.
A lot of time coming off the clock after that carry by Dalton.
Hey! Badger!
And Dalton's going to take it for the touchdown. Right up the gut. And Andy Dalton saw something he loved, and that's what he saw.
He sees no one in the middle. He calls the quarterback keeper, but Russell Bodine, the center, he has to make the key block then on the nose, and he does. And then Dalton just hits it before KJ Wright is able to make a play on him. But just a gutsy call there by Andy Dalton with the clock running down, and he's able to punch it across.
5-yard touchdown run, second touchdown carry of the season for Dalton. The extra point, if it's good, will make it a 3-point game. (24-21). 14 straight put up by the Bengals, the 4-0 Bengals. The most unique voice in sports is on FS1. Join Colin Cowherd as he brings you his smart sports talk, along with some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment every weekday. The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays at noon Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1. FS1 is where you can find Colin Cowherd. Well, there's the drive that gets them to within 3 points. And Andy Dalton was perfect throwing it and perfect mentally as he took that one right up the middle for the 5-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, he was very patient, methodical in what he was doing. He was perfect on the drive and able to come away with a touchdown, but now put the pressure right back on Seattle. The one thing that's hurting Cincinnati, as you go down the stretch here, they burned a timeout already in this half, so they just have 2 left. Still have the 2-minute warning to go, but they'll be relying on that defense once again to make a key stop, and that's what they've been able to do. They've been able to get off the field and give the ball back to their offense. They're going to be asked to do it one more time.
The focus also goes right back to the offensive line for Seattle. That's been so much better here today. But they're going to have to open some holes because it's time for Seattle to run the ball. And when they've done that today, it's been great. Rawls, 21 carries, 163 yards. Lockett will take a knee. Let's give you a recap. Cincinnati, a great start. They went right down the field. But then it was an answer by Seattle. Jermaine Kearse to tie the game at 7 from Russell Wilson from 30 yards out. Then near the end of the half, an interception by Earl Thomas. Field goal, it was a 10-7 game. The long run by Thomas Rawls for a touchdown. Then a fumble return for a touchdown by Bobby Wagner. Made it a 17-point game. The Bengals have scored 14 straight, trail by 3. Seattle takes over at the 20. Here's Rawls, left side. Good play up front by Cincinnati. We'll go to Kurt with a game break.
Well, the Browns were down against Baltimore 21-9, but check out this touchdown catch by Gary Barnett. The tight end goes up, pulls it down between his legs for the grab. This is his 3rd touchdown in the last 3 weeks. More importantly, gives Cleveland the lead 22-21 in the 4th. Joe Troy.
From that great catch to a 2nd and 9. Handoff to Rawls. He gets to the 25, maybe the 25 and a half, brought down by Dunlap. And a timeout taken by Cincinnati. They have 1 left and a big 3rd down coming up.
A big 3rd down when you look at this and what Seattle is now going to try to do. I mean, clearly they're trying to take time off the clock. Does Darrell Bevel call up a pass and see if he can keep this drive alive with the risk of not taking much time off the clock with an incompletion? He's got to play to win right here, but this defense has gotten tough here in this 2nd half and have done a nice job.
Well, the one thing you have with Russell Wilson, you saw where Seattle sits in the NFC West, is the ability to put him in a position to throw, and if it's not there, try and run for the 1st down and keep the clock running. There's Thomas Rawls. Most by a Seahawk since Sean Alexander in 06. Hard to believe with Marshawn Lynch all these years. Here's the big 3rd and 4. Wilson, he is going to be brought to the ground, and it's 4th down. Atkins made the play. I'm surprised they let that play go. It didn't look like Seattle was set at the snap.
No, it didn't look like they were at all, but they do get away with it. And you look at Geno Atkins and the job that he does coming off Justin Britt at left guard. As soon as Russell Wilson steps up, he makes a play, and they're all over Jimmy Graham, and just an outstanding job defensively. Geno Atkins makes a big-time play at a critical time in this ball game.
Third and final timeout, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati does take their timeout, their final timeout. They're going to put a little bit of time back on the clock, 2.5 to go. And Adam Jones will be waiting for the punt. As we look ahead to next week, week 6. Panthers at the Seahawks, a good one late. Cardinals and Steelers early. Redskins and Jets, the Bears and the Lions. A lot of action left here today. 3-point game, and Cincinnati about to get it back. Good punt. No fair catch called for by Jones. Big return. And now he's brought down, but they're whistling this play dead back at the spot where he caught the football. It looked like he called a fair catch and then just took off.
I thought he gave like a safe sign. I didn't see that he raised his hand for a fair catch.
Yeah. You have to definitively wave it. That was close. Over your shoulder and up. And now the officials will get together. For the moment, they brought it all the way back to the spot where Jones caught it.
Yeah, I didn't even, in real time, Joe, I didn't even think that he had done that much. I thought that he'd used both hands and gave kind of a safe sign.
Fair catch signal. Return team number 24. 5-yard penalty, 1st and 10, Cincinnati.
So not only do they not get the big return by Adam Jones, but it's a 5-yard penalty on top. But let's say this, if he doesn't do that action, Stephen Terrell is right there to make a play, but Terrell pulled up because I think Terrell thought that the fair catch was called for.
Well, you know, you got to give him a full fair catch if in fact it's going to be a fair catch. I think there was some gamesmanship there on Adam Jones's part, and you see he's telling the official that, you know, what he did was purposely done to try to deceive the defense or deceive the coverage team. He gets away taking his helmet off. That should have been a 15-yard penalty right there.
Instead, they just get the 5-yard penalty. 2:17 left. No timeouts. Pass is caught by Bernard, and he is smacked by KJ Wright. And that will likely take us to the 2-minute warning.
You'd rather that ball just be incomplete. They get really no gain on the play and run it down to the 2-minute warning. A lot of time off the clock.
2nd down and 9 on the other side of the 2-minute warning. Back after this. This was ruled a fair catch signal on the field. Big return nullified as they bring it back, and then Adam Jones taking his helmet off, not flagged for that. Marvin Jones talking to him after a gain of 1 before the 2-minute warning. 2nd down and 9. Dalton steps into it over the middle. He's got Marvin Jones, and Jones will be given a 1st down. In case you're wondering, Mike Nugent's career long is 55 yards, which would mean getting it to the 37-yard line of the Seahawks. He had a 57-yarder in the postseason. Down the sideline, going for a big one, and incomplete with a flag. Marvin Jones, the target, with Kerry Williams in coverage.
I saw some contact at the end of this play before the ball arrived. You see the grab, the right arm. He's grabbing Marvin Jones's left arm. That's a good call, and then a bunt to go with it.
Number 26, automatic 1st down at the spotted flag.
That's a good call, Joe, and they've had opportunities throughout this game. We saw earlier they took their shots. They haven't taken many here in the last few quarters, but now with the game on the line, they go after Kerry Williams. He's up, locked up in press coverage. A big play, a big penalty on Kerry Williams.
27 yards of field position to the 45 of Seattle.
We're talking about 8 more yards to be within range.
Here's Eifert. Oh, what a catch by Tyler Eifert! He's down at the 20. What a grab for Eifert, who's had a 2-touchdown day. That's his most important catch. Now they hand it to Bernard. Almost broke 3 balls out, but they're saying he's down. Bernard, who has not lost a fumble in over 444 touches coming in, had his knee go down before the ball came out. Let's go back to this catch by Eifert.
That's an excellent job of Eifert going and getting the football, but Andy Dalton does a great job in the pocket, knowing he's got pressure, just laying it out there and giving him a chance.
Clock continues to wind. Dalton, end zone, incomplete. Well, now it's 3rd and 4. Pressure there by Frank Clark, the rookie, 2nd-round pick out of Michigan. It's 3rd and 4, no timeouts left. They're well within field goal range. Here is the run by Bernard, and no doubt the elbow was down and the ground caused the fumble, so good no fumble call there. Then the incompletion. Now it's 3rd and 4, and Nugent has been anything but automatic this year.
No, he's been inconsistent, but with 24 seconds, Andy Dalton, they don't have to get the ball out of bounds. He can check it underneath. He's got, Seattle has to cover the entire field.
Dalton gets popped. And now with 15 seconds and counting, it's 4th down, and they cannot spike the ball. So they have to rush on, snap it. Good snap, good kick, tie game. No time left. And the 31-yarder in a fire drill ties this game, and that was well done by Darren Simmons' special teams crew on the field goal unit.
Yeah, they were ready to go. They knew what happened because you're expecting them to get the first down or the ball incomplete. Dalton, you know, he keeps it. He's running with the ball. He's short of the first down. They were able to get him onto the field and get the field goal to tie it. Here's Eifert, who he lays out. This is an outstanding job of going and getting the ball, but as I said, Andy Dalton hung in the pocket. He had pressure coming in his face. KJ Wright was barreling down on him, and he laid it up and put it the only place he could to really give his guy a chance. But that guy then has to go make the play, and he does. So, you know, a lot of questions about Andy Dalton and where is he, and, you know, is he as good as what he has shown here through the first 4 weeks? That's a great job with the game on the line of getting your team down there in a position to tie this game up.
He's led this 17-point comeback. Last
All
3
replay
drives.
reviews, if needed, will come from upstairs. Each team will have 2 timeouts. Each team will have an opportunity to possess the football. Your call is heads. And it is a head. You won the toss.
Which way you want to kick? Which way?
To begin the overtime quarter, Seattle won the toss. They've chosen to receive.
So Seattle starts the overtime with a football, as the Bengals have gone touchdown, touchdown, field goal to tie it. What a catch by Eifert to help set it up. Into overtime we go in Cincinnati. The rules now in overtime. The coin toss determines possession. We know the answer to that. It's Seattle. Both teams have the opportunity to possess the ball unless the first possession by Seattle here is a touchdown or a safety for Cincinnati. Each side gets a couple of timeouts. Go to the booth for replay reviews, and there's Darren Simmons. His crew gets a lot of credit for being ready for that field goal unit to come on and kick the 31-yarder. And here's the transition to the field goal unit after Andy Dalton was knocked down short of the first down.
It's just an outstanding job by Darren Simmons on the sidelines, having his unit ready to go in the event that Dalton is sacked or he keeps the ball short of the first down. You're anticipating the clock stopping or it being a first down. So for them to be ready on the sideline and immediately get out onto the field and make that field goal to send this game into overtime, that's just an outstanding job on his part.
It was fourth down, so they couldn't spike it to stop the clock. And now Seattle with a chance to win it with a touchdown. Hand off to Jackson, brought down by Malaluga.
Well, the Seattle offense has just had a tough time. You know, the last 4 possessions, they've just not been able to do anything with it. This defense, they are playing well right now, but having a hard time getting anything going on the offensive side of the ball for Seattle. Though every look time they've shown this look with the wide outs out wide, they've handed it off. We'll see if they do any play action off it this time. You see these receivers, they split out wide to the boundary, and every time today they've handed the ball off.
Wilson keeps it. He's brought down short of a first down by 3 yards. Vincent Ray on the tackle. 3rd and 3 coming up.
A big 3rd and 3 right here. We haven't seen Jimmy Graham involved all that much. I just got to believe, you know, he's a former basketball player. You get him in a position where he can body up somebody, stick it on him, and keep this possession going. He's right here in the slot.
Pass is caught by the rookie Lockett. And Tyler Lockett out of bounds with a gain of 7, but most importantly a first down. And Lockett looks like he's limping a little bit as he comes back to the huddle. That's a big, big conversion for Seattle.
Yeah, Kirkpatrick, he's playing soft. They squeeze Jimmy Graham there in the middle.
Wilson will keep it. Get around Ray and then slide down at the 39. He picks up 5.
Well, Seattle going to this no huddle. You know, they're not certainly playing against the clock at this time, but Russell Wilson having to do a lot of it on his own right now.
End of a long day trying to keep that defense backpedaling, tired. Here's Jackson brought down in the backfield, and a penalty flag flies as Brandon Thompson makes the play. John Perry will give us a call. It's a hold against Seattle. And Marvin Lewis wants to move him back.
Yeah, I think they got Russell Coon.
Offense number 76, 10-yard penalty. 3 plays, second down.
Brandon Thompson, that is, he gets off the ball so quickly that Russell Okun, he's out of position, so he's shooting the gap, and he holds him, and yet Thompson's still able to make a play on the ball carrier.
Second down and 15. Wilson backs up, throws down the middle. He's got Lockett. Incomplete, broken up. Iloka and Kirkpatrick were back deep as Lockett had to wait for that throw to get to him.
Yeah, if Russell Wilson was able to really step into this throw, he's moving around, and he just was not able to get his body into the throw. It hung up in the air on him, but Lockett was wide open down the field. You see his Russell Wilson's taking a hit at the end of that play, and the ball hung up on him, but they completely turned him loose in the secondary.
Kirkpatrick comes off the field limping. He was back there to help break it up, and you see the hit on Russell Wilson. That was vicious as he let that ball go. That's why he couldn't step into it. Third down and 15. caught underneath. Jackson stopped short. Vincent Ray on the stop, a gain of 9, and now Cincinnati would need just a field goal to win the game as Tate goes back for the punt from John Ryan.
Well, you can't say enough about the job that this defense has done here in this second half. They were aided by the penalty on that drive by Russell Okun, but force a 3rd and long and then come up and make a play on the ball carrier.
Punt hangs up, goes out of bounds. We'll see where they mark it. At the 26. Andy Dalton has been hot. He started out hot, then threw a late first half interception in the Seattle end zone. But his last 3 possessions, he's gone touchdown, touchdown, field goal, and he has been on target now over 300 yards for the game. And he's got a rushing touchdown, which was the second of the 2, the other one to Eifert. It's been impressive the way they've come back.
Yes, it has, and he's done it without much of a running game. I mean, we've seen some nice runs from Bernard, but overall, hadn't got a lot of help out of that running game facing the number 2 defense, and yet he's brought him from behind, got him into overtime, and now he gets a chance to take this team down the field and win a football game.
Here's Eifert, tight end screen, and he's across the 30. Picks up 5. Last 3 Bengal drives, Andy Dalton has gone 10 for 11. Now you include that, 11 out of 12. So when it's mattered the most, he's only missed once.
Well, that's how do you play in the 4th quarter? How do you play in overtime? Right now, we saw what happened when he tried forcing one early in the game. But since then, he's been pretty patient in what he has done. He's been banged around a little bit, but he's hung in there. Played well.
4 guys to the top. He throws left to Green, and A.J. Green slides down into 44. All the attention to the left of the defense, and the throw is to the right, one-on-one with Sherman.
Yeah, I like that matchup there. Just 2 great football players in this league, but A.J. Green gets the better there. He does a heck of a job with the release off the line of scrimmage. As you said, Joe, put all 4 guys to one side, isolate one-on-one A.J. Green, Richard Sherman. A.J. wins that one.
Here's Bernard sneaking through. By the way, that 13-yarder to A.J. Green, his first catch since midway through the 2nd quarter. And it comes here in overtime, 2nd and 5.
Well, you better have some respect when you're playing against Richard Sherman. I know I would. I've seen too many times him turn around a game when you start thinking that, you can beat him. You better be precise with the football when you're throwing it anywhere near him.
Second and 5. Dalton throws behind his receiver Jones. Had him, but missed him.
Yeah, he had him. That ball looked like it just slipped out of his hand. As he drops back, he has him, and we haven't seen that from Andy, really all season long, but a ball that clearly got away from him.
Now 3rd down.
A.J. Green in the slot now. Marvin Jones with Richard Sherman.
On 3rd down, Dalton knocked down from behind. And it's 4th down in midfield here in overtime, and a punt coming from Cincinnati. If you're just joining us, Cincinnati took the opening kickoff, went down and scored a touchdown. Seattle answered. It was a 10-7 Seattle lead at the half. Seattle took over, led by 17. But the Bengals have scored 17 straight and did so at the end of regulation on a field goal, 31-yarder to tie it. Each team was possessed it once in overtime, and now Seattle, for their 2nd possession, will start at the 20. The Seahawks started the season 0-2. They lost in St. Louis at Green Bay. They won at home against Chicago as they welcomed Cam Chancellor back. They won on Monday night at home against Detroit, even though Russell Wilson was sacked 6 times. That Play made by Cam Chancellor at the end of regulation, knocking it out of the arm of Calvin Johnson to seal the win. And the missed call in the end zone on the batted ball. And now Seattle, if they don't win this game, they will take the long flight home, thinking about a 17-point lead that was blown here on the road. Well, it looked for a while like the defense was just taking over. Next score wins. Here's Rawls. 2 yards over the left side. So now some pictures to go with all those words. A fumble that was returned 23 yards by Bobby Wagner for a score. And then Cincinnati took over.
Roll block, offense, number 79. Half the distance to the goal. Replay first down.
That was the big catch by Tyler Eifert that eventually set up the 31-yarder to tie it. While we were showing highlights, Gary Gilliam was called for a roll block, a personal foul that moves the ball all the way back to the 10, first and 20.
Just too many penalties to have any type of consistency offensively for Seattle. They've just not done anything with the ball in this half.
Here's Jackson out of the backfield. Stops, starts it back up. Good catch and run. For a guy coming off a high ankle sprain, Seahawks are shocked at how he's responded. He suffered that on Monday night against Detroit. That was good for 12 and a big 12 yards on first and 20.
Yeah, at least they get this to a manageable second down and normal down and distance type situation. And the Bengals, they bring in A.J. Hawk. They're at linebacker, but with the empty backfield set, Seattle in a passing formation.
Hawk across from Graham. Pass is broken up over the middle, and a good play by Vincent Ray. Trying to get it to Luke Wilson. It was Russell Wilson. It's 3rd and 8.
Yeah, this defense has been impressive. This defensive front, the way that they've been able to control the line of scrimmage here on the last few possessions. Defensively, good coverage there.
Third down and 8. Russell Wilson is sacked. Dunlap was there. Lamar was there, and here's the coverage downfield.
Yeah, that's the backside of the play there. Russell Wilson was working this front side. And you see the coverage there on Jermaine Kearse. That's where he was trying to go with the football. And once he started to try to scramble out of the pocket, it just collapsed on him. An outstanding job by that defensive front.
And now Ryan will punt with Adam Jones waiting for it.
Hands up, hands up!
Good punt. A little room in front of Jones. Adam Jones. Good return. Out across the 40, and the return for the 32-year-old, last year All-Pro corner. After a 62-yard punt, a 19-yard return. And Cincinnati in a good spot as they start this drive out at their own 43. Well, this is how these two teams would want it. Overtime, Cincinnati's offense, Seattle's defense. Next score wins.
Well, we talked about it coming into the game, about the number 2 offense against the number 2 defense, and here it is once again with 7 minutes to play in this overtime period. I don't think the Seattle defense would want it any other way.
I bet Dalton feels the same. Here's Eifert. What a game he's had. Forward progress to the 45 of Seattle. He threw Kerry Williams away and picked up extra yards.
Not bad coverage there by Kerry Williams, but Eifert, he's able to run the slant and Another well-thrown ball by Andy Dalton, puts it right on him. It's a nice target for a quarterback running that slant route, and he's got great position. You just stick it right on him.
Eifert with a big catch at the end of regulation has 2 touchdown catches today. Hand off to Bernard. Giovanni Bernard inside the 35.
Run a stretch play to the left side here. You see the hole that's opened up. The arm tackle there trying to get him to the ground. And Gio Bernard, without him today, they would have no running game whatsoever. And a guy who, excellent out of the backfield, regarded as a scat back, but he's a much tougher runner than he gets credit for.
72-yard day for Bernard. How about some more? Inside the 30. And they are now well within field goal range for Nugent, who so far this season is 4 out of 6 with a long of 35. He did hit a 31-yarder with time expiring at the end of regulation. His career-long regular season, 55 yards. They're inside that. And now a timeout taken by the Bengals. This has been some game.
Cincinnati, the team's first of 2.
And I bet it's been a while. The last time the Seattle Seahawks have let a 17-point second half lead slip away. Last time was 2004 to be exact, in October against the Rams. Let's go to Mike Hill with a game break.
All right, guys, Cincinnati trying to stay undefeated in overtime. Falcons do it. They get it done in overtime. Robert Alford picking off Kirk Cousins, and he's gone. 59 yards for the game-winning score. 25-19. Falcons now 5-0. Joe, Troy, back to you.
All right, Mike. So another interception by Cousins. He just can't get away from those, and this one to end the game in overtime. Meanwhile, here we are, next score wins, and we are pointed toward either a breakaway touchdown or a Nugent try to win it. There's Bernard. Still fighting his way down inches inside the 25. And you're looking at about a 43-yard field goal from this spot, which, by the way, would be his season long.
Well, I would expect Hugh Jackson, the offensive coordinator, to come back and run it to Gio Bernard one more time here on 3rd down. I'd be really surprised if we see Andy Dalton do anything throwing the football. I know that right now they're in the shotgun formation. Maybe they will, but I was a little surprised they slowed down the pace. They had Seattle on the ropes there.
Bernard again. Here comes Nugent. 4th down, under 4.5 to go. Mike Nugent serenaded as he comes onto the field. Not bad when you're a kicker and there's new as part of your last name.
Well, yeah, and then combine that with the fact that you have struggled a little bit coming into this game.
Can the Bengals go to 5-0 for the 3rd time in franchise history? Nugent can do it with his right leg. Good snap, good hold. It is good as he banks it in, and the Bengals are 5-0. Tip of the hat today to the special teams unit for the Cincinnati Bengals under the direction of Darren Simmons. And a forgiving left upright.
It's just an outstanding win by this Cincinnati team, Joe, to be down the way that they were and to come back. Andy Dalton really showed himself here today in leading the team back against an outstanding defensive unit, sending it into overtime. What a great win for Marvin Lewis and the Cincinnati Bengals.
So the Seahawks blow a 17-point fourth quarter lead to lose for the first time since 04. The Bengals win it by 3 in overtime. Back after this.